Getting to the end of a first draft is a significant achievement, one that deserves to be celebrated. And without dampening the excitement of that accomplishment or minimizing the hard work you've already put in, we're here to tell you that the first draft is only the beginning and there is more hard work ahead.
Most published authors would probably agree with James Michener's assertion, "I'm not a very good writer, but I'm an excellent rewriter." In fact, if you'd like to see a published writer roar with laughter, just ask if they'll let you read one of their first drafts. First drafts aren't meant for sharing. They're testing grounds, a place where the writer tells the story, often clumsily, haphazardly, always to themselves. All the work you'll be putting in between the first and second draft, and possibly a third draft, will help ensure that your story is ready for a reader's eyes.
Your first draft has recorded every idea you've had about your story. Its characters, events, conflicts, world, atmosphere, and perhaps you've even taken notes on the side. Ideas, research, moments of insight or inspiration you haven't been able to incorporate yet. Now is the time to consider how a reader will experience and interact with your story. The balance between what's made it onto the page and what's still unrealized, that ideal story that lives in your head.
One of the most anxiety-provoking aspects of rewriting is that it's a process that requires, well, some dismantling, some reconceiving, a willingness to move away from what you've already done and to try something new.
Yeah, there's a certain safety in having completed a first draft. It's done, it's whole, and though it may have many imperfections, it's a tangible, concrete thing. Like a high-flying trapeze artist, you're going to need to get comfortable releasing that grip on your first draft in order to move on to the second.
But what if in rewriting my story, I actually make it worse?
Yeah, that's everyone's fear, isn't it? Throughout this course, you've been practicing craft concepts in exercises and assignments. At the same time, you've been developing revision skills, the ability to assess whether a change will be an improvement before you make it. Okay, but let's take that a little bit further. What if my entire story collapses under the weight of all that scrutiny?
I think at times it's going to feel as though that is actually happening. At the risk of mixing metaphors, rewriting is not only a marathon and a high-wire trapeze, but also the worst home reno you've ever lived through. And just like a home reno, you pass through 3 distinct phases of emotion. The first is the awareness that you need to do something. This 80s peach decor is terrible. I can't live with it anymore. So you decide to go for it. You renovate. The next phase usually happens during the height of demolition, when you realize in a panic that your house is now completely unlivable and maybe 80s peach decor wasn't so bad after all. Now this is a common experience during rewriting. Your draft's gutted back to the studs and it's not even a story anymore. But wait, the third phase is on its way. This is where you're seeing the improvements go in and where you can begin to see what the story is going to be. Hang on through the panic. You'll come out on the other side, we promise. Okay, but what if rewriting doesn't apply to me? I mean, some writers write a perfect first draft, right?
It seems every now and then that we hear some brilliant book was written in one draft or 1 month or one sitting. And I'm not going to discount the possibility that that could happen. But look, realistically, the reason we hear these stories is because they are so rare. So rare that out of the thousands of books published over the decades, only 1 or 2 might hold this distinction. This isn't a statistical likelihood you can bank on, so do the work. Put in the sweat equity. Don't forget, it's not as if when you rewrite, your previous draft just vanishes into thin air. It's still there waiting for you if you decide, after all, that it was the better draft. At the very least, going through the rewriting process will build your craft skills and make you a stronger writer all over, so it's a win-win. Okay, but what about the polar opposite? What if rewriting goes on forever and ever and I never finish the story?
Greetings, my fellow perfectionists. The first thing to accept is that rewriting can take as long or longer than writing your first draft. And you know what? That is okay. Rewriting is writing. Rewriting is the most important part of writing. You want your story to be as good as possible, especially if you're hoping to send it in for publication. Now that said, once you've worked through all the rewriting processes in this course, if you're still revisiting the same scenes over and over again, or changing key descriptions and then changing them back again, that's probably a signal that it's time to pass your manuscript on to a trusted reader.